interested in economic impact for how to invest in a downtown, because after all, if we take public dollars and we put it into a building or a parking lot or any accoutrement to the town, we want to see jobs and we want to see economic growth. The Liberty Theater has a small direct impact, and what I mean by that is that there will be employees, there will be rent, there will be costs and so forth associated with the actual operation. But the overall economic impacts are really indirect for the community. If the Liberty Theater is successful and is operational, it provides yet one more piece to the downtown corner where the library in juxtaposition to the theater and Max Square and City Hall and the marketplace and all the other important places in this corner of the town, there's now an evening venue. This encourages people to believe that LeGrande has something going on. And for shopkeepers and for business owners, this is an opportunity to revitalize the downtown and to really add an aspect of, and I use a word called synergy, which means that when you put a couple of things together, sometimes something greater happens as a result of putting a few things together. If we still allow ourselves to have an uninhabited building, so to speak, in the middle of a very active part of town, it sends the wrong signal to people that there's nothing happening in the evening, there's nothing happening downtown. Now we have the library, the marketplace, City Hall, we have the marketplace or the Max Square across the way. If we have the theater operational, it sends the signal that there's something going on at night as well, and that there's vibrancy in the downtown. That does lots indirectly. It says to people, LeGrande is a good place to come to, LeGrande downtown has good things to be and to see, and the shopkeepers ultimately and the business downtown will ultimately have a direct impact. This is especially true in looking at other towns that have done similar projects. It has to do with revitalization of a downtown that could, if unfettered, would ultimately burn, as we've seen some of our buildings burn in the past, and that would even do more non-economic economic damage than it would be to health.
Historic preservation does something else for a community and even for individual properties. It makes them more valuable. And there's been many studies, the carefully controlled studies throughout the country that show that when historic preservation takes place, both residential and commercial areas, properties become more expensive, and that's because they're more desirable. When buildings are restored or maintained in a good fashion, they just end up, being more valuable. There's studies that show even historic districts, that if you have a similar neighborhood in a historic district versus one that's not, that the historic district price actually goes up only to the extent that it has local oversight, which is really interesting. In other words, if the historic district means nothing as far as regulations and oversight, the prices will be the same as the other neighborhood without the plaque on it. So actually following the rules of keeping the historic facades as close to their original, keeping white vinyl windows out, things like that, those neighborhoods that follow the rules will actually go up in value. The same thing with downtown buildings. We've seen downtown buildings that had minor restoration because that's all they needed, and we've seen them double in price just from that. It's a very much an economic boost to the individual property owners who do restore and maintain their buildings, but it also is a catalyst.
The restoration of the historic theater can be the most important economic thing the single most important economic thing that could be done to ensure the long-term viability of the economics of a downtown area. When we were restoring the Tower Theater, prior to that we had a long fundraising campaign in which I did presentations to every group under the sun, from the Kiwanis and the Rotarians to the interested citizens and interested donors and so on. And at every one of those presentations, I usually said this is the most important thing that you can do to preserve the downtown. But we found out that practically from the day that the theater opened, that was what was in operation. That the people that a theater draws are people who may not normally go to a downtown area. They're not specific to any particular business, but they're drawn to all the businesses of the downtown. And just by their being in the downtown as pedestrians, it creates an image of a vital, alive, urban place. So what we found out with the Tower Theater in the 10 years that it's been in operation, that it is, in fact, the single most important economic generator to the downtown because of all the spin-off that happens with a historic theater. So I would reiterate that for the Liberty Theater. You may not realize it now, but this is a key to keeping the downtown alive, revitalizing the downtown, etc. The other thing is that, again, what makes the Liberty Theater special is its location, and it's the old real estate dictum: location, location, location. This theater is right at the entrance to the downtown, next to City Hall. Once the blade sign that says Liberty goes back on the front of the theater with the canopy, I think most citizens will look at that and realize, hey, this is a theater. Not knowing that, in fact, it's been there for over 100 years now. And this will become one of the landmarks, not just to Grande, but to this region, as a theater or a place you go to have a wonderful experience.